Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us despite the massive snowball fight opportunities outside. We have a bit of a challenge on our hands. We will try to do a wrap-up and a state of play of what being a label in the Balkans is today. We only have 1 hour to do so. So off we go. 3 panelists today. If you have ever been looking for the very definition of multitasking, don't look any further. You have it in front of you. 3 people from Serbia, Croatia, and Slovenia, respectively. I will maybe ask you to introduce yourself, starting with our candidate from Slovenia.
Yes, hello, my name is Marko Godnajvec. Nobody knows me with this name, so everybody calls me Jizah. I have a tiny, small record label called Beton Records. Otherwise, in the time when I don't have any free time, I'm working for Nika, which is a licensee for Warner in Slovenia. I was organizing a lot of gigs too. That's the multitasking part. 2 or 3 club serials, Repetak, Zeleno Sonce, Domorodni četvrtki are 2 brands within Slovenian clubs. And I work on the radio too. I did some journalist stuff for different media. I think that's about it.
Thank you. On to Danijel.
Hi, my name is Danijel. I come from Zagreb, Croatia. For the last 5 years, I work for the company Pozitivan Ritam. Our main business, or our core business, are festivals, but we also have an independent record label, in-house label called PDV. And I also have my own small label called Geenger Records. In the past, I was involved with Moonly Records, and I also work for the club in Zagreb called Močvara. So I'm a bit
Multitasking.
Here for a long time. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Nikola. I'm from Belgrade, Serbia. Right now I own my own record label called Kontra, which is really new and really small. For the last 4 years I've been founder and director of Lampshade Media, which is also a record label. Before that, editor of MTV Adria as music editor, and some concerts before that with Odličan Hrčak concert agency and a couple of festivals and stuff like that, but originally came from journalism. Started working in media and finished music production that I never started doing afterwards in my life.
Okay, thank you. The Balkans, ex-Yugoslavia, a series of countries, a series of territories, all with their very own specificities. There is no way we can talk about some kind of united market. The penetration of digital services is very different from one country to another. Some of these territories are EU members, others are not. On a daily basis, how does that impact running a label in your country? Let's do this on a country-by-country basis. Basically, what is the current situation in Slovenia, for example?
Bad. It's just one word, which is bad. Why is it bad? I think if we are talking about the digital platforms, we have here all the digital platforms except Spotify. So Deezer is here, Apple Music is here, Tidal is here, Google Play is here. But these are just break up the relationship with telco company called Telecom last year, so they don't actually do nothing on our market. They are huge in Serbia. Apple Music has like 10,000 subscribers, but with a lot of problems, so nobody's taking care of the market, of the Balkan markets. And I think digital is the only way that we can have some money. You know, physical is dying. I think in underground scene is still living, but in commercial scene there is no. I don't know anybody who's still buying CDs. You know, younger than 30 years old. And we have an agenda on our label when we sign the new artist is, okay, which digital platform do you use? Answer is none. When is the last time you bought a CD or an LP? I don't remember. So we are on the scene when everybody wants to make some money, to have something, but nobody's doing nothing that the market will be better.
Okay. What about Croatia?
I would say that
Daniel?
it's pretty much similar to all the countries, that the culture of buying music is not very big in this whole region. So we have similar problems with not enough supporters of what we do, even between bands. So people who are musicians, they don't support other musicians by going to their shows or buying their records or album digitally or vinyl or CD, whatever. So what we are trying to do with our labels, we try to make a community that first of all musicians should support other musicians, and then we can try to grow the culture of supporting musicians financially by buying or listening their records via official channels like Deezer or Bandcamp and stuff like that. So we should not, we are not here to complain about our market or anything, because first of all we are pretty much, we are small market. Croatia and Slovenia combined are probably the size of a bigger city in Germany, and we sell records like they sell in one record store in Berlin probably. So we are small region with not that high standards, so we need to work on our awareness of independent music probably a bit harder than the rest of Western world.
So it's interesting, and there's some kind of educational aspect that you're mentioning there. Nikola, what about the situation in Serbia? You've just launched your own record label pretty recently, although you have experience in other record labels beforehand. What is it like for you nowadays?
But I think it depends who you ask, because I don't think that we all, as people who are in record label business or in music business in general, have the same issues and have the same problems. Because if you speak with the folk guys and folk people, pretty sure they're not going to say it's bad. I would rather say it's challenging and it's different. It's different than it used to be. And most of the labels, the old labels, will complain saying, yes, CD sales are down and so on. But there are new opportunities that arise every day, and we face that every day. And I like to take that approach and that look, that we have new opportunities to be present in every house more than ever, that you don't have to wait in queue or line or production company to finish your CD or LP before you ship it to your customers, and that you can interact with them and you can interact with your audience, you can comment, you can share, you can do whatever. So in that terms, technology brought us together in a way with our fans and with our artists as well. On the other side, it is challenging in terms of that we are small markets, and I think that's the main issue, main problem, that economically we are not developed as some other Western countries, and that this part of music that we all belong to, from the rock scene to the alternative scene, is kind of pushed from the mainstream. That's another issue. And when it's pushed from the mainstream, then there's just a huge gap between the #1 artist or artists who tell they are the most popular and the artists that we take care of. And for my perspective, the last 4 years or 5 years, it was in convincing people that some bands that we represented are as good and as commercial as the bands that are playing on radios or TV shows, to be short.
Okay, thank you. We kind of touch on a very difficult subject, I guess, at the moment in the region, is the availability of streaming services. We all know that when comparing with other markets, that streaming income is most definitely on the rise. What I would like to ask you is, could you summarize which services are available in your territory, and practically, because we know that the answer won't be that great, what does it have as an impact in terms of income on your activities?
I mean, the income is there, the income is coming. So you have steady income if you have bands that can provide income. So that's a big difference for digital, because it's the game of big numbers. So if you have quite a lot of streaming, you will get a lot of money. If you have hundreds of streamings, you will get 1 cent or €1 or something like that. So there is a huge gap between the number 1 band and the last band on the list. From the streaming point of view, you have in Serbia Deezer and Google Play. Deezer is not that great in Serbia in terms of numbers. We don't know the numbers.
Despite what
The estimate was about 60,000 users, which is probably 3,000 to 6,000 users that actively use Deezer. Otherwise, it's app on the phone, but not active users. They're tied with Telco, Telenor, and that contract is still in place, which is good, but then there's lack of promotion. There's Google Play, but it's seriously miserable. There's Bandcamp, as a lot of alternative bands are using Bandcamp. There's YouTube I consider it as a streaming platform, which is for Balkans the most important streaming platform, not to take it less than serious as it should be serious. So that's about it. If I forgot somebody, there's no Tidal, there's no Spotify, there's no Apple Music, Amazon, kind of. So, but then there's this kind of hipster's view that if Spotify comes, everything will change. I hope that will happen, and then that people will consume streaming more.
Okay, now move on to Slovenia, where, if I'm correct, the offer of digital services is much more
we have
important.
almost all, as I said before, we have almost all basic streaming services. We have Bandcamp, we have SoundCloud, YouTube, and all those paid ones. So Deezer is here. So all except Spotify, which is for now not allowed to come to Slovenia because the intellectual property office said that they can give them the license to make it available in Slovenia, which is for me science fiction because Deezer don't have any license and they're working here. Apple Music don't have any license, they're working here. I think it's just a problem that some people would like to stay like in the YouTube, which is like the Arab. For example, in the YouTube we have 5 million of views of one big Slovenian artist. A year we received €40 for it. So there is no money in YouTube. They are selling ads, they are selling everything. There is really no money in it. On the other hand, we have signed like 20 years ago famous Bosnian band, which is 1/4 of everything that we do digitally. And I think that's because nobody in Slovenia is placing the money on the right place. So, when we have the results for the Bosnian band from Germany, Bosnia, Croatia, Serbia, Sweden, we can make some money. But there is no money from Slovenia from the same band, and they are huge in Slovenia. So I think that's the problem is actually mostly in collective societies and, as he said before, in the awareness. So when Deezer came here, there was no promotion of Deezer. When Apple Music came here, there was no promotion of Apple Music. What Apple Music actually is, that you can have it for free for first 3 months, that you can pay, I don't know, €6, and you have all the music in the world actually on your computer, on your phone, and you will give some part of the money to your favorite band. When you will be on YouTube, they won't receive nothing.
Sorry, what does it mean Deezer doesn't have a license and Apple Music doesn't have a license? In what term?
Nobody gives them any license in Slovenia. But for Spotify, the intellectual property office said, oh, we cannot put them on our market because we are a collective society.
That means that Deezer is not paying any publishing money? Or it's
no,
paying?
because they're not here. I don't know why don't they want them here? Because Spotify want to come here. They have on the table agreement with Spotify, but it's the same thing that they did with YouTube. YouTube, like 5 years or 6 years ago, okay, let's make a contract. Slovenian artists will make some money, Slovenian holders, publishers, whatever, they will make some money. They didn't sign this, but they're still on the market. It's just bad for the artist because nobody received any money, and they are here. We have all the albums on YouTube because somebody's uploading it, you know, and you can go in the war with them. So I don't know what's the problem of Spotify. I asked them, I called them like 3 times, and I don't have any real answer.
Daniel,
Well-
is Croatia literally in the middle of those two situations?
Well, in Croatia, Deezer got sued from Croatian Association of Musicians because apparently Deezer is made a contract with record labels and not with directly with musicians. So they are still in court about this. And we also, there is no Spotify in Croatia. But when I look at our reports from our digital distributor, I see that the iTunes is still #1 service, and the Spotify is second, and then Deezer is on the third place, which means that our music is probably more consumed abroad than in our local market. So the problem, first of all, you cannot blame Spotify or Deezer that they don't want to come here or invest here because, like I said earlier, this is a really small market. It's probably too big investment for them to go into each separate country with all our bureaucracy and everything. So they are kind of present here, but they don't have the power to invest in our markets because it's a risky business.
I will just add something. Deezer has an office in your city. I mean, in
Deezer
Zagreb.
has
they're
an
in
office
Zagreb.
in one room, in one apartment,
Yeah.
in one on the 7th floor, on one private apartment. So Deezer Balkans is one guy.
Yeah. For
who is-
all territories.
For the whole territory. He's a very nice guy, and we often talk to him, and he said, I'm still in court with these musicians that I'm supposed to, advertise or something. So it's a strange situation for Deezer, definitely, in Croatia.
I will just add something. In Slovenia, Deezer was actually killed by politicians with net neutrality. So when they started in like 2 or 3 weeks, there was, okay, there is net neutrality. You cannot use Deezer and not pay for internet service.
Which is an interesting case in
Which is
itself,
an
because it
interesting
sounds
case,
more
yeah.
like a competition, but possibly a competition issue much more than a net neutrality issue. But everything you've just said is a bit doom and gloom, I'm tempted to say, but it raises a lot of question about the way music is consumed in your countries. Is that with a very low penetration rate of the digital services, with physical sales quickly declining, am I right in saying that the 2 biggest ways of consumption are either piracy, for which obviously a label would not get a penny, and YouTube?
In a way, yes.
And what is your relation?
I would be
with
very
YouTube
happy
like?
if a pirate would want to press our releases on their CDs. So that would mean that there is a market for us as well. So.
Well, I was more thinking of a digital piracy, but
It's in a way that I don't know what happened in Slovenia and Croatia because I didn't have information in the 90s, but in Serbia the traditional labels collapsed, and when they collapsed, we couldn't catch up with the new technology thing that was going on in Europe at that time, and we skipped the iTunes completely and the whole download process, which some say it's a good thing, some say it's a bad thing, but we skipped it. So we came directly to streaming. But even when we opened the streaming, we didn't open it completely and open it the right way. We started with YouTube with no monetization, with people finding ways how to do it, putting the wrong assets and so on and so on. So you have a whole generation of people who grew up listening to free music, and we all contributed as a business because we approved free download as part of some businesses that we run, in a way, because bands didn't want to sign the old contracts, which basically was giving all the rights for life for pressing a CD that cost like 500 euros. So, you know, why would you do that? I wouldn't do it if I was a band. So, you know, the labels didn't catch up with the time, and then bands were left alone. So they did what they could do. Bandcamp, MySpace, SoundCloud, free downloads. To be a collective just released a new album. They put it on a free download, they put it on a CD, they put it on a vinyl, they put it on a Pirate Bay. I mean, you know, so, and because their income is not from listening to the music. So you have the other side of the business, which is a good part of the business. You have really live festival scene, you have really good concert scene, you have a lot of bands like Repetitor and others playing a lot of it in the region. You have, I mean, you have good examples that not everything is doom and gloom. You have examples that publishing is going up. You have that income from neighboring rights is going up. I think that we talk about streaming only, but that's not only part of the business. Part of the business are rights as well. And we, as labels, or most of labels, tend not to talk about copyrights because that means scamming the artist, which happened at the end of the day. The less you talk about copyright, the less the artists know. So, you know, so, and we also have problems with local organizations. I know there's problems in Croatia, I know there's problems in Slovenia, especially in Bosnia, Serbia, Macedonia, and Montenegro. So there are problems with seriously how much artists get from the organization, who's playing music, who's not playing music, who's reporting it, and so on and so on.
I think Slovenia has the same cases. YouTube is by far the biggest, but you cannot earn any money on YouTube. And Slovenians, and I think this is for all the market, are very good in using technology. So very good IT guys. They can download anything from everywhere, everything from everywhere. They will find a solution how to find a new record if they want it for free. So, you know, the generation or two actually grow up with music is free mindset. And I think that's happening right now, because if you ask somebody, I don't know, with 25 years, he never bought a record, he thinks music is free. On YouTube, everything is for free. You can go on SoundCloud where everything is for free, etc., etc. So I think knowledge is the thing that needs to happen on all those markets, especially in Slovenia.
Okay. You mentioned an interesting point. The live scene in ex-Yugoslavia is really vibrant and thrilling. Sorry. There are quite a few massive festivals taking place in all genres. It goes from off festival to punk rock holidays and so on. So what is really interesting is that the advertising around these events is nowadays all over Europe. Those festivals are really well known and further away from these territories. How would you say this is impacting the music sector in those countries, that to have such a successful live scene?
From my perspective, it's forcing us to be better in a way, because if you look at the standards that Exit must have, or Belgrade Arena must have if they want to have a Beyonce show, for example, they have to do it the same way they do it in London. So otherwise the show's not going to happen. And from that perspective, I think that festivals help us to have more professional people who learned in a way how to do concerts, how to do shows. You have a lot of concerts in Croatia, in Serbia, and everywhere else. And it's forcing us to be better as the music professionals, us as labels as well. You know, we learned a lot doing festivals, working with foreign labels, you know, how to do PR, how to do press day, how to do promo, how to make an EPK and stuff like that. So that's the knowledge that you get when you do such big, important, big festivals. And I think that's good for all of us. There is a struggle on the local scene when you talk about local musicians, you know. It's not everybody has amazing live careers, but there are bands who are trying. You know, there are clubs closing down, closing up, and so on and so on. So it's, you know, the story has two waves as well. It's not just everything's great, Exit is awesome, and in music is awesome, and so on. You know, there are less and less bands booked to play at those festivals, local bands, not from the foreign perspective. You have less and less local music on the radio, you have less and less local music on the festivals. You know, I know that you have law in Croatia and Slovenia to protect local music, but there's no such a law in Serbia. So you have more and more national radio stations playing zero local songs. And that's why also the mainstream pop bands or rock bands, that we talk about are pushed from radio into the alternative scene. And so where's then the place for band that is really alternative? Doesn't exist.
Would you agree with that, Daniel?
Yeah, definitely. And what we do with, since we are in festival business, everything we earn, we invest back in through our label to our local scene. So we kind of make it our priority that the bands from Croatia or Balkans also get the chance to play at our festivals as well. It's we can't negotiate that with our partners, so it's really important that we can invest in our releases and that we can help our bands get the chance to play in front of international audience in Croatia, of course, because the festivals we are doing are mostly oriented to people from UK and Europe.
Okay. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, Slovenia is, I think, pretty bad with those huge festivals. Croatia has like a lot of English festivals, so Brits come there on their seaside, and
It's not English festivals. These are Croatian festivals.
but owners are British people.
Not really.
Not really. Okay.
No. Some of them are, but most of them are partnerships between Croatian companies and British companies. They are not owned by UK investors or whatever. And they are not franchise either. These are products, real products.
They are much better. Slovenia has like metal festival, punk festival. They're both huge, but most of the people are from outside Slovenia. So Italian people, Hungarian people, Austrian people came. We don't have any huge Slovenian festival. The biggest is MENT. And shows are for like 2,000 or 3,000 people. Križanke is the venue in Slovenia. So I think we are mostly going, if we want to see like high-profile band, to Croatia, to Serbia.
But for example, you have a pretty decent help from the local authorities. We are here in Kino Šiška, and we in Croatia, we can only dream about center like this. And there are also many youth centers around Slovenia that also are getting help from local authorities, and they do shows and they do education for local young people. So it's specific for Slovenia. I think they went furthest when it comes to getting help from the government or from city councils.
It's like 1 or 2 festivals are like that. Most of them are without any help. So it's always like MENT is huge, with
there is also Lent.
some money.
There is also Lent.
Yeah, Lent is city festival, which is like the festival of the city. So city,
popular.
So city is doing it. Yeah. So I think it's really hard to say. I think the alternative scene is much better in this because they don't need sponsors. We don't need any sponsors. There is a band playing for 100 people. That's it, or 200 people, or 50 people. For the mainstream, is much harder because there is no concert in Slovenia for 1,000 people made by mainstream band. If they are not like 20 years old, Siddhartha, Bigfoot Mama, Dande, or somebody from the 90s or at the beginning of 2000. So like new bands that grow up like in the past 5 years, they don't have a concert for more than 1,000 people.
Which is not such a bad start, though. No?
I don't know. Back in the days, we have bands like Mila Dojka Unit, which was like, okay, we have 2,000 people in like 1 year. Now we don't have, and on the radios, there's really small amount of young musicians, except in the alternative scene, which is pretty much different.
Okay. So if I recap, Slovenia is bad and there are festivals for English people in Croatia, so I've noted that down.
And there is Lent and MENT.
And we won't comment on Serbia, don't get me started on Serbia. From an outsider point of view...
There is a huge question side over your head floating around.
Is there?
Yeah,
okay.
You don't see it.
Let's maybe then if we can't agree on the feedback on the live sector, let's maybe go back to more classical income streams for the labels. We kind of touched upon that, the relationship with the collecting societies. You raised the issue of licenses and the fact that they might be some kind of obstacle to the implementation of some digital services in Slovenia, but then once again, Slovenia is bad, I got that. It's just a joke in case there are a lot of Slovenian people in the audience. Could you tell us more about the situation in your territories and maybe even in neighboring territories, because we've hardly talked about Bosnia, Montenegro and Macedonia or Kosovo so far?
Yeah, depends if they record this. The situation is, I think, pretty much the same. As we spoke with IMPALA and when we speak with other labels and everything, we all see Croatia right now as the holy grail. I know that it's not perfect, but it's from our perspective and Bosnian and other perspectives, it's a holy grail of organization that it's working for the artist or for the labels that have official top 40 chart. Whatever that top 40 chart looks like and however they made it, there's something in the process of making it. I know, but I speak with artists daily and I know it's not perfect, but when you come to Serbia, when you don't have a digital scan of the market, when organizations are refusing to accept digital scan of the market, when every single radio TV station is sending Excel sheets, like typed in, and then at the end of the year you have 1 million songs, literally 1 million songs in unclaimed repertoire, which most of the local labels can't handle because it's too much work to do. When you don't have official list of who's the #1 in performance rights organization, who's the #1 in authors organization, who's the #1 in neighboring rights. So, you know, compared to that, even your fake top 40 looks much better than Excel sheets and Sokoj ladies, you know, that don't know how to answer email or still asking CD when you report a song. And every time we send a song to neighboring rights organization, I have to put a stamp on CD, otherwise it's not recognized. I'm not joking. It's not recognized, and I have to print Excel sheet and put stamp on it in 2018, you know. And so from that perspective, Croatia looks amazing. So pretty much the same, Macedonia is in much problems because there were issues with their organization and the license they got from Ministry of Culture revoked. There was another organization. It was huge clash between the organizations. Croats and Serbs withdrew the complete music catalog from and forbidden Macedonian TV and radio stations to play it, and then they gave license back again. Serbia has 3 organizations that combined have about 13 million euros a year. Nobody knows where that money goes. Croatia is more the most transparent organization in terms of how they spend money and where they spend it and who's getting some money, at least. Slovenia has their own issues. They have organization that's spending half of the income. More than half of the income on the expenses, not to the artists or the performers. Montenegro basically doesn't exist in terms of copyright. Pretty much the same situation in Kosovo and Albania. And in Bosnia, you have a neighboring rights organization that is refusing to pay to anybody except the Bosnian record labels, because they can do it.
Well, that's a pretty good summary.
Yeah, I think Slovenia has now top 40 chart, but it's not made digitally, it's just monetized. But it's a step. It's a step.
And Croatia have a Deezer single of the month.
I think this will grow slowly, but from my perspective, bands should include themselves. All the artists should include themselves to all this process. Otherwise, there will be no process. There will be like old people running those companies with stamps, with everything. Young bands, new bands, they must come, they must talk with them. What's the issue? Why do they spend half of the money, etc., etc. Slovenia has a problem that all those collective societies are always in war with somebody. IFPI spends half of the money for lawyers because they are suing everybody and everybody is suing them. And then the lawyer said, oh, it's a lot of money for us, let's sue somebody else. And this is road to nowhere, you know, and everybody's just suing everybody, nobody's doing nothing for the scene. There is no communication between artists, the labels, publishers. We need to go there, you know, we need to have something that we can say, okay, give us 80% of our money, don't spend 80% of our money, because this money is ours. Most of the artists, they don't know how much money they must receive from concerts or from digital rights, because they don't know a shit about digital rights.
We are pretty much divided, even when markets, even when working together, and you know, the things you said are real, but even when you try to change something in the organizations, then you come to big players like the old 80s bands that are happy with the money they're getting, and because their voice is the strongest one, they're not gonna to change it because they don't understand what we're telling about.
Yes,
So you need education as well at one point. You need to educate people because Sokoj doesn't understand why we're not receiving any YouTube money and Deezer money from publishing is because Sokoj doesn't understand or doesn't know how to import the Excel sheets they're receiving from YouTube and Deezer and transfer it into the real people and real numbers. And this is not a joke. This is a real thing.
I think
Daniel, I would like to ask Daniel, because he looks a bit depressed with that story of English people coming to his country for those new festivals. Daniel, if I was to ask you, you're the new Harry Potter of the music sector in the region, and you're the new Harry Potter in the region, and you can by magic just change everything. What would you change first?
I would go with media. I think I would hire 10 journalists from Croatia, and I would pay them. I would put them on the radio and on TV, and I would just let them do their job, and our scene would be changed in 2 to 3 years with proper curators and people that would recognize what's good in their local music scene, and then we would get some kind of balance between the mainstream music with what's, for example, in the rest of the world, metal music is pretty popular. It's pretty good and lucrative business, and these bands, these artists, they are present in the media. For example, this year, Independent ran top 20 metal albums for the last year. So it's like a daily, the biggest daily in UK, and then run these obscure metal bands because they noticed that it's thriving and popular type of music, even though it's a bit extreme for the mainstream media, but it's important to if you are a media that's a bit intellectually or left oriented, it's important to cover all this non-mainstream music. So what I would do, I would definitely invest in one media house.
It's interesting because it has become some kind of recurrent theme on this panel. It's that whole idea of education and access to information. In this regard, there are more and more events, just like MENT here, but also like the PIN Music Conference in Macedonia, that new event also taking place in Belgrade, where you have meeting places, helping with an understanding of the sector, helping with networking. What do you think of that, Nikola? Is that a step in the right direction? Is it helping? It's pretty ambitious and it has to be, but is it helping?
I mean, is it meant helping? I think it is. So I think that what we spoke about, that you don't have bands, I think that something will come out of this. Some new bands will come out of this.
But for example, we are people from record labels, and we are here at MENT, and there is not a single vinyl or CD that you can buy here, and there are like 500 or more people coming from all over Europe, and we cannot sell them what we do here at MENT. So I would definitely suggest something to the people that are doing these conferences bring more labels, bring markets to these events, and this is also a way of helping young artists, not just let them play in front of industry people.
Yeah, but for me, if you have a band, it's then an issue of taxes, because I'm not part of the EU. If I want to sell my CDs properly here or vinyls, then I have to import it, pay taxes and so on. Doesn't make sense. I agree with you, but
yeah.
I guess it's easier if you create a label and then come bringing your goods to Slovenia. Yeah, if you're not Serbian or Bosnian.
We as a company
also,
we are also running a distribution, so we can definitely help you with that. So, yeah.
Just to get back to your question, I think it's helping, and I think it will help, and I think we will need to support both conference in Macedonia or Serbia or wherever we came up with a conference or idea of any kind of education. What my problem with all those conferences, because I've been in here and there, and is that we have lack of artists. I think there's more and more industry people coming to the conferences from different aspects of business. It's more music business people, but I would like to have more artists present. You know, because we're not in the war with the artists. I think we need to cooperate together, and I think this is the place where you come, and because I think everybody are really easygoing in these kind of conferences, and when you have Exit or Beer Fest or anybody else, you can just come and just be like, okay, this is my band, this is a CD, this is whatever. Maybe you won't be booked to play a festival, but you will make a connection, and it will be easier at some point. And I know a lot of bookers are coming here because of, you know, talking with people directly and making some sort of contacts. Even with the bands, I think it's important to be here and learn something new or ask about advices and stuff like that, because people will spend actually some time, because that's why we're here.
Any comments on that? Any comments on that whole idea of educating both the sector and the public to the challenges encountered by the music industry over here?
I think we have a problem because of huge gap between alternative and commercial people. So no commercial artists are part of MENT here. Nobody listens to it. There is no big Slovenian bands, no big Croatian performance, except if they are coming from alternative scene. And I think that's, so we are talking to the people that actually knows what the problem is. We are not talking with the people that don't see any problem in all these scenes, in live concerts, in how to make your money, how to take your money, how to to make collective society pay your money. I think this know-how is very good for alternative bands and not for all the scene. And most of these conferences like Latvia, Slovakia is the same. So it's just made for kind of independent bands which are aware of the problem. But I think the whole music scene they don't see that as a problem. For example, if we're like name dropping biggest 10 Slovenian artists, they don't care about MENT. They don't care about all the issues that we have. They are all in collective societies. Their member is there with 16 years old, with his fat ass. They don't want to listen to anybody, you know, and they're not here. That's not their issue. They're coming like from time to time and say hi, and they're going. In Slovenia, in collective societies, we have just old people. And they're not here. They're not here. I think the collective society must be a part of MENT. Must be here. Must hear what we have for them. You know, and everything is like, oh, you are banned to come to Sazas, which is a Slovenian organization. Oh, you are not welcome to come. We don't say you are banned, but you're not welcome. So I think these festivals are good, are very good for some aspect, but they are not promoting the other aspect, which is commercial music, which is 80% of the market, which is maybe stealing a lot of money from alternative artists, which is part of, I don't know, collective societies. Small artists, they don't receive any money or really small amount of money, but they have a lot of concerts, much more than than the big bands which are receiving the money. So I think that's the problem. They must be here. They must hear about our problems, about bands' problems. I think his idea is great to sell everything on those festivals. I just bought one CD. I have 10,000 CDs, and I just bought one on the whole festival, and I didn't buy any vinyl because there was no vinyl here.
Okay. We've touched quite a lot of topics already, and we have to do that really fast due to time constraints. Quite a few problems we've identified, yet quite a few reasons to be optimistic too. I guess that you wouldn't be around if it was not the case. Nikola, there's also that idea through IMPALA, the Independent Music Companies Association, to set up a kind of Balkans platform, some kind of loose organization that would help local record labels to tackle some of the issues we have discussed. This is happening right now, and you've been quite instrumental to the setup of that whole idea. Would you like to tell our audience a few words about it?
Yeah, I mean, the IMPALA is an independent association of labels, of European labels, and we've been working quite some time because most of the labels in IMPALA are represented through national organizations. So you have Italian National Association, Swiss National Association, and so on, independent labels. And IMPALA is doing quite a lot of work, if you heard the panels today, with politics, with YouTube, with Spotify, with fighting injustices and stuff like that, not to be boring and too long. So the idea is that we don't have any kind of those platforms on the local level that can help us in any single way. So the idea, instead of making 6 or 7 local associations, is to make one regional, which is going to help indie labels. Doesn't matter how big or small you are, if you are Menart, or if you are micro label with 1 employee, or you're a band and have a record company and you release your own album. The whole idea is how to structure the forces together and do something together. First, to know what we're doing together, then to have some informations exchanged, because that's the crucial in our business, to get all the informations, if there's a YouTube change, if there's anything going on, and then also to try to make a change in every of those issues that we tackled. So if there is an issue with Spotify, I think that we need to address that and talk with Spotify directly. If there is issue with organizations, somebody needs to come and tackle this issue with the organizations. If we don't have indie representatives in the managing board, we don't know how the money is spent, I think we need to tackle those issues and start educating people apart from that. So that's kind of, to be short, idea of Balkan platform, and I hope that we will be able to share more in the upcoming weeks, and then the labels will start joining and trying to make a change with us, because we will try to make a lot of noise and a lot of fuss about it, and try to actually do some work that should help all of us, including the artist, at the end of the day.
Thank you. One more question, probably a question that will be more of interest to non-Balkans people who are trying to get a grasp of everything that's happening over here. Most of you in your own territory are working with local artists. You're doing a lot of development. It's quite a classic for touring bands to obviously start in their own territory, then to visit first the neighboring territories. Yet we have some kind of EU border separating Slovenia and Croatia from the rest. You mentioned the issues of imports and of taxation. How does it work for labels like yours to develop local artists? And when do you decide to go one step further and then to move on to non-ex-EU countries?
Just me or everybody?
All 3 of you, like maybe Danijel?
Well, since we are now in the EU, all this hassle with customs and transports, it's much easier now. We don't have to pay taxes and all that upfront. So I like that we are now in the EU with that, but still our main problem is that we are not in the core of let's say German or UK market, so we can't get any proper distribution over there. So these are our main problems. We are a bit too close but not part of that market, and we are not too far to be exotic, if you understand. Slovenia and Croatia are in Europe but not in Europe, and we are not oriental to be interesting for the, I don't know, clubs that are doing world music or stuff like that.
Slovenia, I think, has the biggest problem with the language, because Croatians and Serbians have markets with 20,000 people, even more, 30,000 people speaking Croatian or Serbian. So if the band is in Slovenia, millions, yeah, sorry. In Slovenia, we have just market for 2 million people. So if the band is doing something in Slovenian, it's really hard. So I think for Croatian and Serbian bands, it's a bit easier to come to Slovenia, but to come out of Slovenia and go to European Union, it's still hard. I think we need to have bookers, we need to have all the aspects in here that somebody can go out. We have the biggest Slovenian bands, for example, are Gramatik and Laibach, or artists. Laibach, it's the political story. It's like, okay, they don't care about nothing. They don't have any issues that we have.
Making more and more friends every minute.
Yeah, but Gramatik is a different story. Gramatik is a different story. He still want to push some of his friends to the other markets, and I think we need some artists. Umek is great too in the techno area. So I think just the artists that are kind of part of their team are doing something outside of Slovenia. Otherwise it's hard. Otherwise it's just the bands that are playing the festivals like MENT, and they don't have their own booking, like they don't have solo concert in Berlin or something like that. But I think maybe it will happen in the future. I think this market are going, from our perspective, I think we are more and more interested to come out.
DJ scene is interesting, and when you haven't mentioned that, DJ scene is big and thriving. There's a lot of parties, the international bands, artists, not call them bands, but artists. You have a lot of Serbian DJs or regional DJs playing and touring the region, much more than we talk about the concerts, you know, because it's easier, it's cheaper, it's one person, you don't have this hassle with the equipment, work permits. For us, for Serbia and other countries that are not part of EU, when you travel with band, it's a problem, you know, with permits, with work permissions, with, you know, equipment and so on and so on. But I hope that will change in the future. It's going to be easier, but DJs are, you know, the ones that you have also this new momentum in the music scene where everything now sounds similar, and Justin Bieber and Skrillex are doing the record together. They sounds like every single record that everybody else came out with. So, you know, the pop music also changed. So I think it's opening, and you have much more international bands that are not English speakers becoming successful as under the DJ names, making music, producing music. So that's also the chance for regional musicians to collaborate and work with somebody else, apart from just being a band and being part of alternative scene.
Okay, it will soon be time to wrap up, and I really would like to take a few questions from the floor. If I have to ask you what keeps you going, because we've talked a lot about challenges, obstacles, problems, but all problems have solutions, on paper at least. If I have to ask you to summarize in 1 or 2 sentences, what keeps you going, what makes you positive about the future, what would you say, Nikola?
I don't know. I love it. I love doing this. I love music, and I like trying to do this. And I also hate injustice. So, you know, in a way, for me, it's kind of, you know, trying to do something good for the community, as well trying to do something good for the artists and the people I work with, and trying to give good advices. I think I would summarize it that way.
Daniel?
I don't know.
You do not know?
I don't know. What keeps me going? It's just that I'm too much into this that I don't think much about
consequences.
But the higher goals. So I just want to be around, and let's see what happens. Yeah, looking forward to my pension.
Well. Okay, Jizah, you're entitled to 3 sentences because I'm really not optimistic about you landing a job with the Slovenian tourist office anytime soon. So, 3 sentences.
I think he said it all. One sentence.
Well, thanks, Nikola, for being so positive. So to wrap this up, we've had a lot of complaints, but there is still, at least in Serbia, somewhere, someone who still has hope for the future.
There is hope for the future, but
that's what I wanted to ask you about.
I think the future drives us, me and him, and him, that something
You
will be
said they
better.
didn't know, and you said you agree with that.
No, he said he's so
do you know
into
what,
it.
Do you know what is your goal in life already? It's too early.
Well, I was not prepared for that question. No, but I mean globally, for your
I know,
label,
but my goal
for
is,
your music activities. I mean, you could be working at a post office if you
I want
wanted
to be a
and just
cowboy.
forget about that music business shenanigans. You could.
I really don't know. Someday I want to, have a farm and live with animals. And sometimes I like people, so it's strange.
Okay, so we learned quite a few things today. The business side was the challenge of digital platforms, some obstacles maybe with collecting societies, the will to structure the sector, and some interest in all these conferences. We also learned that Slovenia can be banned, that the UK, now that Brexit has happened, is about to invade Croatia next summer. Do you have any questions about this?
I was wondering what the situation is with the radio in the area, because I come from Spain and it's horrible. Like the top 50 most played artists
You
are
replied already.
all or for like major. Basically, there's no independence on the like main radio stations in each of the areas. And also, do you have opportunities to like be broadcast in the different countries?
I can tell you for Serbia, you mainly have top 40 radio stations. We don't have a law that's protecting local market, so you have to have 20% or even more of local music. So you have more and more radio stations only playing international music, and that we see that in incomes every year from publishing and neighboring rights. It's decreasing for local artists as well. There are a few radio stations, one of them sitting right here, rock radio, and a couple of more that are opening or closing. And there's still people having rock music or alternative scene or national radio that wants to have like to play songs or have guests or record a concert, for example, and do a live broadcast, but it's less and less of that. And from the PR perspective, it's becoming much more harder, to promote band if you don't have a clickbait title that somebody's taking off the clothes in the video or some famous actor or whatever. It's really hard for you to announce the new album, the new the new video, something like that. And I pretty much think it's the same situation in Croatia and Slovenia.
Yeah. It's even if you are a mainstream artist, your songs don't get played from your new album because they play your previous hits from other albums. So you have, I don't know, if you are Muse, the song that will be in the rotation on our rock radio, it won't be from your latest album. It will be from your previous albums because
you have to prove yourself.
People want to hear that because they are just used to your music. So it's hard to break new artists via radio. It's almost impossible.
In Slovenia, we have 3 spaces. One is main one, so with top 15, top 40, whatever. This is the huge one. Then there is like national radio supporting some artists that are not too alternative and not too poppy, so they push bands that are somewhere in between. And then we have a Radio Student and Radio Terminal, which are pretty much alternative radios. So we have space for everybody, but for alternative bands, we just have 1 or 2 spaces, so maybe 3 if they're coming to the national radio. For the commercial, is much better, but yeah, the problem is the same. They're playing old songs, the favorite hit from the artist. When they release new one, if they don't have hit by their terms, they are dead. If the song is 3 minutes and 13, no, we just play songs until 2 minutes and 50. So
I think
that's
the problem, not just with radio, with all other media, is that there are no journalists or critics or curators that are strong enough to make a person go out and buy a record from an unknown band. There are, like, for example, probably in Germany and UK, you have journalists that want to discover new artists. You have radio stations that want to be first, that will play some unknown band. Here, they are making a contest who's going to play first the song of the most popular band, and then at the end of the day, they are all playing the same song from well-established band.
And watching YouTube,
Yes.
YouTube numbers. So if you have big YouTube numbers, you might enter the playlist. If you don't have big YouTube numbers, then you're nowhere. And we have that situation with several artists that can't make it to the playlist, which is stupid. And they're watching YouTube because we don't have Spotify or we don't have official charts. So I know that in Croatia, when you have a band that enters the chart, it spills to other stations. You know, they're like, if you know, these are paying so much money for this research, like what listeners like, and they're playing, I don't know, Hladno Pivo. I might play it. I'm a small radio. I don't know how to do it. Don't have that amount of money. But if they're popular, you know, I'll put it on the playlist as well. I think that's also kind of, you know.
Any other questions?
Do you have any data how many people are using the digital services? You mentioned Apple Music has 10K in Slovenia. What about others and in other territories?
In Croatia, I think, well, Deezer is what you get with if you sign contract with one of two telecoms. So I don't think they will share that data because they are not treating Deezer properly. They just give you Deezer and they don't advertise it, and you probably even don't know that you can use Deezer for free if you signed contract with them. So I don't think these numbers are accurate at all, and that it doesn't make any valuable information, even if you know it, because
unofficially 60,000 users in Serbia, 30,000 in Croatia. I don't know about Slovenia. That's about Deezer. But that's of the people who have the application when they buy the phone with the contract. So it's not the users who actually sign in and have the account and listen it on a daily basis. And there is an unfortunate thing that we don't have any kind of digital information in terms of how many people are using the app, is the market is growing, how many streams we had this year, is it going up or down or anything like that. So there's no official data. That's what organizations should be doing, for example.
We have the official data. It's around 10,000 Apple users, as I said before, around 2,000 Deezer users, mostly not paid, so they're just using Deezer. A few hundred Tidal users, and that's pretty much it. Google plays fourth, I think, or fifth. I don't know about YouTube. So YouTube with everybody's using it. So, but I think the positive side of Slovenia is that at the beginning of 2017, Apple had like 3,500 users. Now they are here in 10,000. So they are growing and growing and growing.
I'll take that back so that we can end up on a positive side for Slovenia. We only managed to touch upon one of the many topics we wanted to discuss. There's so much to say, but it's already time to close this panel. I've been told there's a bus going to the Estonian reception at 4:30, so make sure not to miss that one. Thanks again for joining, and have a good afternoon. Thank you.